Night Vision on the new Rennies radio network. Following clues left by our ancestors and travelling to the stars. Decoding mysteries and discoveries. Exploring secret meanings and hidden wisdom. Uncovering secret knowledge. So let's get into Night Vision with your host, René Barnett.
Hi everyone, welcome to Night Vision, coming to you from beautiful downtown Cuisa, France, at the La Confluence headquarters. I'm very excited about tonight's show, so I'm not going to mess around too long here. We have a wonderful guest, and we're going to talk about some wild things. So I hope you'll stay tuned and come back again and join us next week as well. All right. First of all, I have my guest, Danielle Egnew. She is a psychic medium, a musician, an activist, an all-around amazing person. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Renee. Good to see you, girl.
Good to see you. I've just been blown in on the wind. I was down at the river right next to my house here. We had a wonderful surprise marriage proposal today. Some friends of ours have come down from the UK, and the prospective bride had no clue about what was going on.
Wow.
And so we had it all set up down by the river and with champagne and flowers. It was really beautiful. And she said
oh my
yes.
gosh.
So
Yay.
congratulations to
Woo.
Carl and Tina. Yay.
Yay, Carl and Tina.
Yay. So, today, some of you may have noticed that the name of the show is a little interesting. I've called it Angels, Aliens, and A-Holes because Danielle, as a psychic medium, does communicate with off-world entities. And I'm very interested to hear what they might have to say to us down here on Earth about some of the chaos and all the crazy goings on. So let's hope they're listening and that they will respond.
You know what's interesting, Renee? They always are listening for those that key into them. And a lot of these cultures, you guys, are what we would, in our limited way of understanding quantum communication, we would think of them like telepathic communicators, right?
Right.
And so when I am speaking with a lot of these off-world cultures, it's not like they, land a ship in my backyard and get out and be like, hey, I brought a six-pack. What up in Montana?
Yeah.
It's not quite like that. However, we do have a lot of communication. And I live in South Central Montana. Right out, I'm looking out this gorgeous window here, which is why I look a little blue because it's all this daylight that's hitting me through this giant window. And I'm looking at this gorgeous, giant, old mountain called Big Pryor Mountain. And there are tons of UAP and UFO off-world craft that come and go from this particular mountain. They were mining uranium out of this mountain in the 1940s. So they're always coming over the house and I can feel them. They're on a different frequency. Their ships are on a different frequency. So I'll be saying to them, hey, what's going on? What are you guys doing? Sometimes they talk to me. Other times they're like, oh my God, it's that naggy little sister monkey down there. Wow. And they just kind of phase out because these craft will phase in and out. It's really fascinating. So, when we're talking about where we're at on the earth, we were supposed to have full tilt, full blown open disclosure in 2014. I mean, big time. And we've had like these versions of that get buried in section D of the newspaper. And notice my finger quotes as all of our papers die across America, which makes me sad.
Yeah.
But I mean, but back in the day, we still had the newspapers, you guys, and they were burying them back in section D. And it would be like congressional hearing on UFOs disclosure. And that was it. And so they couldn't say that they didn't cover it, right? But a lot of what these off-worlders are using our planet for and have been for eons, before we were even little monkey dragging our little fist through the mud. They used our planet as a jump point between A
Mm,
and B, like a London Heathrow, right? Like
right.
I'm going to go to Scotland, I go to London and, or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm going to land in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, if I'm going to go to France, whatever. And we have an incredible system, Renee, of vortexes that our planet supports because we are a giant spinning electromagnet covered in salt water, which is a heavily electromagnetic and, I
Mm.
mean, electricity, right? You never want to drop your hair dryer in the bathtub, people. Okay, bad. So, we're covered in water. We have water underneath of our plates. I've been talking about a subterranean ocean for years and years. And I had somebody ask me one time, they're like, "Are you a hollow earther?" I'm like, No, I'm a physics person and water sinks and we're on a spinning planet. So it's gonna throw a lot of the water out, but water sinks. So we've got water under the ground too, you guys. Hello. So what we're talking about here, Renee, is the fact that these off-worlders come and go. They've been using our planet for a long time. There's vortexes in our oceans, in our planet's core, in different folds, electromagnetic folds that are made in our upper plates through geomagnetic activity, like Yellowstone Park or Hawaii or any of these other places where we have a lot of geothermal or geomagnetic activity. So when you're
Mm.
and what do these off-worlders want us to know, right? Uh,
Yeah.
they have been trying to pump through human consciousness telepathically, we'll use that word, energetically, by using the Earth's own magnetic field and our empathic connection to this planet, because humanity is an empathic species. We are connected to the great mother from which we evolved, all right? They've been trying to get us tips and tricks to survival. Like, hey, here's some green energy. Hey, here's how to grow crops without depleting your soil and having to rotate it all the time. Hey, here's how not you to use all your water up or dam an entire river and lose 43% of your electrical load from Hoover Dam to Los Angeles through friction in your wires. Hey, everybody, they've tapped people all over the world for this for generations. And here in the United States, probably not so much in France, here in the United States, of course, we have this greed and avarice running around like a bunch of pot-bellied old guys on the box of a Monopoly game with their monocle chomping their cigar, right? They go around and we're going to own all the billions of dollars because it's 1850. Arg, arg, arg. And that group, that billionaire group, has sat on patents. They have sat on innovations. I know friends of mine who have put things online and had them blocked by Google. And I'm not saying Google is the evil Argonaut here. I'm just saying that things have come out that people have tried to release, and that releasing has been tamped down because we're still making money off of a 100-year-old power grid, off of a 200-year-old power system. Let's burn the coal in the ground. Hey, jobs. So our off-world friends have been doing their best to try to give us some help, okay, in how to manage resources. And many of us hear that. And I want to challenge everybody listening today. Okay, this is a challenge to every single one of Renee's listeners, and I know there's a ton of you because she's been doing this show for more than 5 minutes, all right? So, this is my challenge to everybody out there. When you have an innovation that you dream about, when you have an idea for a product or a feature or something that's going to save our planet, and you wake up in the morning or you stop daydreaming at work and you think, where the hell did that come from? And then you think, well, that's a pain in the butt. I don't know how to invent. I don't know what's going on with any of this. I'm just going to forget about it. My challenge to you is to not forget about it. My challenge to you is to follow through on it. Research it online. There may be 5 other people doing exactly what you're doing. Do it anyway, because our
Mm.
off-world community is trying to talk to all of us, you guys, not just me who talks. Actually, they ignore me a lot. They're like, oh, shut up. No more questions. You talk a lot, you Italian nightmare. No. So, I mean, literally, that's my challenge to everybody, Renee, is all of us are channels. All of us are connected to this planet and receive information. I'm just a little more used to receiving the information because I've been very aware that I do it since I was 2 years old. We all do it. So that's what they would really love us to do. And I'll tell you, Renee, we're at a critical point with some of our off-world cousins, and I call them cousins, and that's a podcast for a different time. But part of our off-world cousins in the Sirius, what we would call the Sirius AB star system, that would be like everybody calling humans the Sunites because we have a sun, so that's kind of rudimentary. But those beings, I'm not saying they're giving up on us, and neither are the folks from Uturan, which we also call Arcturian. Oh, they're from Arcturia. Planet's not called that, but that's cool. We all have our accents, right? So they're trying to get across to us how important this is. And both of those cultures are kind of standing back here going, looking at each other going, are they going to extinct themselves again? This has happened like 3 other times in their more modern iteration. It's happened 5 times since they pulled their monkey selves up. Are they going to let this happen with all of their technology? Because these guys can't, I mean, it's the prime directive, right? Where do you think Gene Roddenberry got that? He got that downloaded to him in his development of Star Trek. So they can't really come down here and do it for us. That defies our evolution as a species. So they'd love it if we could get our crap together, Renee, but like our title, Angels, Aliens, and Assholes, we do have some assholes that would like to keep all the money and don't care if the whole thing burns up because they're looking at their life cycle and they're looking at how long it's going to take to burn up. And they're like, well, I won't be here. I'm a sociopath. I'm a narcissist. Who cares?
I'll be gone before that ever happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We've seen it a lot in modern times where we've seen people come up with, hydrogen energy, free energy. And every time they get shut down, it seems like. And it makes me wonder, because way back with our old friend Nikola Tesla,
yes,
he came up with some really wild stuff. I remember, I think it was J.P. Morgan, forgive me if I'm wrong, but he said, how do I put a meter on it? How do I charge for it?
And
that wasn't the point. And of course,
no.
Someone then burned up his Nikola Tesla's lab. Lots of that information was destroyed or lost, or at least buried somewhere. So I'm wondering if we could have had free energy all this time and saved people a lot of money and saved the planet a great deal of harm. So it seems like things are working against us. And as we talked about before the show, we're not really talking about one side or another. We're talking about, it's not right or against left or Republicans and Democrats. It's the powers that be against all the rest of us. And I'm talking about less than 1% of the population against the whole 99.5% of us that have absolutely no control over what's going on in those upper echelons. But how does one, combat that? I realize that, numbers are power, and as long as we all join together in these wonderful causes that would benefit each and every person, that would be really great. So I'm thinking this is probably the whole idea behind causing us so much strife among ourselves, so that we don't focus our energies toward our goals. It's like keep us all fighting each other. This
distracted,
horrible. That person's horrible. Yeah, and it's really, we're just falling for it, and we've done that for a long, long time. But what, if anything, do the off-worlders have to say about that problem? How do we combat those with all the money and all the power in order to accomplish some of these goals that we have for the betterment of ourselves and the planet?
You know, what's interesting is a lot of these off-world cultures. That's a great question, Renee. A lot of these off-world cultures are thousands, hundreds of thousands, in some cases, if not millions of years older than we are.
Yes.
Okay. And so they've gone through greed and avarice. They've gone through depleting their planets for different resources. Some of them never have because it was never part of their special or soul lesson, right? However, we as human beings, wow, do we love to learn through contrast. We are a contrast driven species. I will drink a million martinis to decide that's a bad idea, right? I mean, we'll just kick it in the
Yeah.
teeth learning a lesson here. So our off-world friends and some of our off-world cousins are very they understand that we are still laboring under the illusion that the beans in the bank account are a thing. And what's difficult in real life is that if I stop paying the mortgage on my house, the bank's going to come take it, right? We can't just pretend money doesn't exist. There's a lot of people who work in the metaphysical field with me. I'm not their cup of tea. I'm a little too much of a gritty girl for them because they get into manifestation and they're like, we can just wish in. Literally, I had a friend of mine say, we can wish in a new environment and it'll just push us to 5D. And I thought, well, if we all could have the correct consciousness, we could sure do that.
Yeah.
However, good luck getting, at least half of 8 billion of us into that consciousness. So our off-world friends have a different perspective. They are at this time um kind of wondering why we are continuing to financially back interests that are contradictory to our own survival. Like, why is everybody online using AI to make pictures of themselves for fun, but complaining that there's a data center going in their backyard? They
Right.
don't understand our disconnect, especially in the United States. They look at us over here and they're like, "Well, aren't you just the trust fund babies of the planet? Look at you. We have all of these resources. We have all of this food. We have all of this fresh water. We have everything over here." And we're separated by oceans from most countries that don't. Well, now everybody doesn't really like us because things have gone real south at the top in the United States. However, most of the countries that would be out to, to create war were separated by oceans. So our off-worlders are looking at us saying, why are you still casting this denial and this illusion into your world? And I hear more from the angelic realm how to deal with all that. Because the off-worlders are looking at me and they're just like, "What the hell's wrong with you guys?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. If you figure that out, let us know. Our gene pool got twisted sideways. Probably some of you mixing in some of your scrambled eggs here, and we ended up being real sideways." But the fact is that we could stop all of this from happening by directing our money in the United States in certain ways. And I mean, I'm going to say some things that are going to make me the asshole here in the eyes of many people. However, many of us, myself included, have our creature comforts. We like to scroll Facebook. We like to get online. I communicate with people who like to follow channelings from angels and offworlders who might follow me online, and I do it through Facebook. Meta is now heavily favoring AI created material in their algorithm
Oh
because
gosh.
I know, because that's what people are creating and are most interested in watching, and it's all fun. So the algorithm just follows people's behavior. So all these folks are complaining about AI out there, myself included. I've no longer decided to use AI imagery once I found out what the heck it's taking out of our environment to make a fun little picture of myself. I'm like, hell no. I'll just, make a face and there's my fun picture, right?
Yeah.
So so once I figured this out, and once these angels are saying this is how you can combat that problem, we've got to change behaviors. And we
Mm.
really have to change behaviors day to day here on planet Earth. And a lot of what we're trained to do in America is be an addict. I mean, we're trained to be addicted to sugar, to buying, to sex, to alcohol, a lot of purchase addiction in the United States of America. It's called being a good consumer. And that programming starts when you're just a tiny kid, especially for those of us in my age group. I'm 57. So we could be turning this around. These angels tell me this all the time, Renee. And off-worlders know what the solution is. They don't understand why we keep hitting this wall. The angelic realm does because they see our spiritual lessons that we also have here. But we could absolutely turn this around by deciding to buy locally as opposed to, unless you absolutely have to buy online. And if you live in Antarctica, good luck finding a mom and pop shop. But I mean, we literally could do this tomorrow. And most of us just think, well, I'm only one person. I'm only one person. Do you know that the over 300 million of us in the United States, we drive the global commerce economy because of our spending addiction over here. We
Wow.
are we are number 1. We are China's number 1 gross national product is manufacturing and everything we buy. So we
Yep.
can turn this around tomorrow, but to be really honest, and this is the asshole part, a lot of Americans just don't want to. It's somebody else's problem. We're fat and lazy over here, and I'm not body shaming. That's just a saying. We just don't want to. We just want to sit around and do and just be like somebody will handle it. And the problem with that is that we are the ones who affect most of the globe. But many of us, and myself included in certain ways, I'm not wagging the holy finger here, just are having troubles making the spending adjustments that are necessary.
Mm.
Uh, and people pricing. These angels talk about how bad does it need to get? The off world say to me, how bad does it need to get for you guys before you stop just annihilating yourself for a Big Mac? What is going on over there? So it's a unique problem, and I think if we could stop being afraid and stop hiding from it and stop being in denial about it, and it doesn't help in the United States. We do have powers that be that want people to believe that all news is fake and all of this is not real. And because of that, we have a lot of people that want to believe that anyway because they're already tired, taxed, overtaxed, and here we are, Renee. So I don't know how to shake consciousness and wake Americans up. I don't know how to do that. I've been trying for 25 years and obviously I'm failing because here we are. So I don't know
Well,
what
do
the
you
answer
think
is.
that we are in some ways changing toward that, or it does seem like certain that there are certain people and groups of people that seem to be, I hate this term, but waking up to reality.
I
Is
do
that
think there are
happening? It feels like it is in a way. I'm
it
hoping that it is.
it really is. Large groups of people are waking up, and I'm certainly not saying, gosh, nobody is. Yet for everybody that's waking up, you have 3 people going, it's not my problem. So if
Mm,
you're one of those listening today and you're like, well, what can I do? It's not my problem. Guys, it's all of our problem. If you just decide to drive 10 less miles this week, just 10, and you take that 10 and you multiply it by 300 million people that might have vehicles, probably not everybody has one. Look how many miles less that's driven.
yeah,
Each one of us makes a massive difference. And this is the feminine time frame, Renee, and the
yay.
off-worlders, I know. Whoop. The off-worlders are like, can you please just why aren't you seeing what's happening? They don't actually understand in a climate that's shifting so quickly, in
Mm,
oceans that are polluted up, in microplastics that we're all ingesting. There is a disconnect with our off-world cousins about why we just can't look at it. And they're different than we are. They didn't evolve from the same type of primate we did. They don't have the same exact type of survival instinct, which can trigger in a human being a series of disconnect functions and disassociation functions in the brain. So, though we do have beautiful pockets of people that are waking up saying, I don't want to spend as much money on Amazon, that's airplane fuel in the air to get it to me. That's diesel fuel on the highway to get it to me. I'm buying this green product on Amazon. How much? And I'm not saying don't do that, guys. I'm just saying we don't think about the whole picture because at least we as Americans, we're not taught to do that. We weren't taught to do that. So I see that there's a lot of people willing to grow and learn. And I mean, I got to be honest though, I'm also seeing about an equal amount that are like, I'll be dead. I can't do it.
Oh,
This is too hard.
geez.
So I would ask you out there, if you're on the fence about whether or not it matters whether you drive 10 miles extra a week, it does. If you're out there, does it matter whether or not you make that one extra purchase on Amazon? And I can hear some of you going, yeah, but those are small businesses out there. That's terrific. Just maybe make one less a week. That's all you got to do. You don't have to change your whole American life. Make tiny changes. One more thing, and I'll shut up, Renee, because
No,
about
you go
this.
ahead.
This wasn't well, it was a psyop. It was a psyop that was dropped on us in the 80s that your vote doesn't matter, your participation in climate doesn't matter. That was dropped on us by the Russians in the 80s to
Mm,
get this apathy that's now taken 50, 60 years, whatever, 40 years to spread. And now we've got these generations of young people coming up, our Gen Zs and our millennials, and part of we Xers are over here going, hell no, we're not going to do this. A lot of boomers I know were part of the original group that came forward and said, no more of this. We're the peace love people. So we're trying. We're just worn down by the same psyop that hits us with bad news every day. So if you find yourself getting worn down, that's the plan. The plan is to wear you
mm,
out and burn you out so you don't care anymore. Please
yeah.
care. It matters that you care.
The other thing that strikes me, particularly about American culture, is when did we start worshiping the rich? When did we start having such admiration for the rich instead of, someone that's out doing something for humanity? It's like, oh, how much money do they make? Oh, nothing. Oh, well, that's not very important then. But I do remember back in the 90s, I was working in television, and what was then called reality TV was basically anything that was not scripted and not news. So the reality shows were like sort of magazine-y type shows and things that I worked on. But then came, I remember the very first one, and I remember when it came, Keeping Up with the Kardashians came out. And I remember saying, this is bad. This is going to be bad, because basically we're worshiping and admiring people just for being rich and able to go out and do whatever they like. And then we start trying to emulate that.
Yeah.
Of course, we can't, do everything, but we start dressing like them and using their makeup brands and whatever else that it is. But I've noticed that that's not so prevalent in other places like Europe, where I'm sitting. And I know that, for instance, doctors here are not rich.
Yeah.
They are not rich. They're very respected, but not because they're, got a big yacht. It's because they're helping people. And I was just having a conversation with some friends just before we came on air about how, you go to the doctor here. And I'm not talking about if you've got the free health care that's available here.
Right.
I'm talking about if you're just over here visiting and you have to go to the doctor. What you do is, especially if you don't know anyone, you go to a pharmacy, you tell them what your problem is. They will call the doctor. The doctor will say, do you want me to come to you or do you want to come to my office? And you choose, and they come and see you, or you go and see them, and it's 20 euros.
Wow. What?
Yeah,
What? I
yeah,
should go for the cold that I have right now. I should fly
exactly,
over and get it treated. God.
exactly. And
Wow.
it's because, and believe me, France is not perfect. And, as anybody that's visiting here or from here will tell you. And there's, people have a lot of complaints about the government and things like that. But I will say that the general attitude for everything is the rights of the individual.
Wow.
And you do not step on someone's day off from work, vacation time, medical care. I mean, everyone is looked out for very, very nicely. If you get really ill and have to be homebound, the government will send a registered nurse to your house every single day. And that nurse will sort your medications,
Wow.
and she will do your dishes and wash your laundry and do whatever little housework there is to do for that individual. And I've seen it happen. I had a friend that was very elderly and passed away here in France. And every day that nurse was there taking care of him. No cost to him whatsoever.
Wow.
Same thing if you have a baby here. They send a nurse round. I believe it's for 6 weeks. It's either 6 weeks or 6 months. And I've got to think it's probably 6 weeks. Nurse comes around.
Sure.
She helps the new mom with the baby, gives her advice if she needs it, helps her tidy up, do the laundry, do the baby diapers and everything. And it's just, it's for the people. It's just really, and it's been that way, I believe, since the French Revolution. When,
wow.
The idea was
Wow.
there were the royalty, and then there was everybody else.
Yeah.
And people were hungry and they were starving. That's when that saying that Marie Antoinette never really said,
Right.
let them eat
Right.
cake, because they couldn't afford bread. But to this day, beautiful, huge loaf of bread, freshly baked, is like 90 centimes or less than €1.
Wow.
And because they said never again will any person not be able to afford bread here. And that's been ever since the revolution. And when people start to feel like they're being oppressed or pressured, like they were trying to raise the retirement age here, and people just took to the streets, government dropped it.
I bet they did. Yeah.
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 It's pretty amazing. Everything is geared toward, does that impinge on anybody's rights? We can't
Right.
do it then.
Right.
It's pretty amazing. And it seems like it's a little bit closer to what we should be expecting and doing for all citizens.
I think you're absolutely right. And your question, which was, when did we start worshiping wealth?
Yeah.
If you think about the Industrial Revolution, if you think about the Rockefellers, who actually came in to try to drill, oil out of the ground because they were trying to save the whales, because we were using whale oil at that point. Yet, what's so weird here is that the United States has always been about, even in its founding, England had it because we had endless resources over here. Then we said, no, no more to that. We're going to do our own thing. Then we started oppressing the First Nations people here to take
Oh,
all the resources. We turned around and did to them what was being done to the colonists, except we didn't tax them. We just killed them and, gosh, just
and took whatever they had.
just killed them and rounded them into camps, which is appalling. That was the way of the old world, and it should never have happened. It happened. It's our history. So, and we did that because we wanted what was under their feet. We wanted the oil, we wanted the railroad space, we wanted the water, we wanted the buffalo. We annihilated races of people, or tried, and in some cases were successful, which is hideous because of stuff. And so our entire culture, this is in our fiber as a culture. Now, is the United States the first country to do that? Well, obviously not.
No.
Yet did it make it right? No. And so here, this is in our spiritual fiber. Okay. And we go on, and here comes, all of these moguls. I live in Montana. We're called the treasure state. You know why? Because we have copper, and we have uranium and gold, and we have oil. We have everything you'd want here because of the way that this state was formed geographically. And so we're called the treasure state. And boy, did we push our First Nations people off of their land to get everything we wanted. So greed and the Western expansion. And people don't even know what manifest destiny means. It means I'm going to manifest my own destiny at the expense of anything that gets in my way.
Mm.
It is a narcissistic and sociopathic operating system, manifest destiny. And that was what was sold to American businessmen and men, because they weren't women back then. Some of them
No.
were, but they got bounced right out. So here we have this problem of always worshiping the rich.
Yeah.
And from day one, and let's not forget too, and I hear about all this from the angels. I'm hearing so much from the angels about how we have all of this beauty that we could share with the world, and there's like a tiny little handful of dudes, they're guys, and I'm not man shaming, it's just true,
Yeah.
that are just duking it out to have who's going to be the next trillionaire at the expense of an entire planet. And we're allowing it because, go back to my comment about purchase power, right? Yet what I think is so bizarre here is that when you talk about France, and I've visited France, my wife loves France. My family, my last name is Egnew, and my father's side of the family is from Scotland, and they were the Agnews with an A, yet they originally came from France as the Agnews, which, and I probably butchered that, it means lamb. And my family, a long time ago in the year 1000, was from my dad's side of the family from Normandy in France, that area. So when I went to visit France, I fell apart in Normandy. I wanted to move back there. I talk about being Italian because my mom's side's Italian. That's how I was predominantly raised. However, man, did I fall apart because it reminded me of Scotland. And when I went to Scotland, I fell apart. And one of the things I loved about France is you couldn't feel that greed and that desperation which drips off of every corner of the United States. And it does. And I had somebody get real mad at me one time, and a friend of mine was like, well, if you hate it so much, leave. And I
Yeah.
said, no, this is my country. This is my flag. I am a gay woman living in this country, and it's mine too. And I think we can just make it better. I'm not going to leave. I'm going to challenge us to not go through this life worshiping money, angry that we got promised this American dream of everybody gets a house and a car. And that came post-war, by the way. That was a post-war thing to stimulate our economy, right? Everybody gets a house, a car, a new set of mixing bowls. Who needs grandmas? All of that came from pushing the economy. Heck no, I'm not leaving. I'm going to, now, do I wish I had a place in France? Hell yeah, I do. Are you
You
kidding me?
do. It's right here.
Oh, right on, girl. Boom. But I mean, it's not all or nothing. It's yes and. And that's how we evolve.
Yeah.
And that's what these off-worlders are always telling me. They're like, why are we not yes anding this? Are you all going to extinct yourselves? Because we've done what we can. And I'm like, well, I hope not. I mean, the rest of us med monkeys are trying to pull it together with everybody else here. So yes, from my perspective, I do not worship the rich. Now I did in the 80s because I was a
Yeah.
teenager, and we all
I
were
remember
watching.
when I wanted a Rolls Royce. I wanted to drive a Rolls Royce.
I wanted
I
a
couldn't
flat.
care less.
Again, now I have a Jeep. I have a Jeep
I have a
that
car
I
that's
love.
about that big.
Good choice over there. Good choice. It's
Yep.
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, I live where there's mostly no roads, so my Jeep, I'm good. I'm going to drive it till it falls apart.
Yeah, you need a 4-wheel drive where you live.
Yes.
But you know what else I wish? I wish that people knew the real meaning of socialism and
Thank you.
versus capitalism. I mean, people, they hear it again in the United States. I feel like I'm picking on my home country, but Um,
Pick on it.
it's like it's a dirty word, socialism. Oh, he's a socialist. Well, okay, that's good because that means that person is wanting the rights of everyone looked after. And, sharing is good. Hoarding is bad. It's very, very weird. Somebody did a great job of making certain words be dirty words. And I'm going to say something here that's probably not going to make too many people happy, or some people, is why is woke bad? Why is being woke? Now, I always thought it sounded kind of funny. I'm woke. It doesn't sound grammatically correct, but what it means is awake. So why would it be bad to be awake? Is it better to just be sleepwalking through life? But now they've done a real good job of making that a really bad word, just like socialism. And don't even let me get started on communism.
Oh, Lord. Or Marxist. How about when they blend them all together? You
Yeah,
Marxist, socialist, commie. I'm like, do you
exactly.
even know what you're talking? It's a word salad. It sounds like you
And
just took a crap
they'll
with
like
your
say
mouth. What are you doing?
socialist, fascist, and I'm thinking, no,
What?
no,
It's
that's
just
kind of opposite.
that's like saying mocha latte, coffee. At least those are at least related,
Yeah.
I mean, it's redundant, but
Mocha
it's related.
chocolate.
I think to your point, and it's interesting. I get this message a lot from the angelic realm, from the off-world realm, about the tiny amount of people on this planet that rely on us to stay divided to make them billions of
Yes.
dollars. Not
And we fall for
excluding.
it.
Oh, we do because we get our little bumper sticker and Americans, we've been trained to be us against them.
Yeah.
That's most countries, not all countries. France is not this way per se, but there are a lot of Western countries and other countries that the us against them is the control mechanism. And one of the reasons that disclosure, which was supposed to happen in 2014, and I only know that from my Serious AB friends, this is in the
Mm.
Obama administration. And one thing led to another. And I think they were dealing with a lot in our first Black president, and there was a lot going on there. So that kind of got shoved to the back of the closet there for another day. However, when you talk about the misuse of these words and where we've become and how insular we've become, and I will say it because I've been saying it in my work for 25 years. We are made purposefully in the United States to be inherently lazy. And I'm using that word on purpose. I don't mean you're not working hard enough or whatever. I mean emotionally lazy
Yeah.
because if we are just fed enough pizza, just fed enough, back in the day it was Blockbuster, now it's just enough Netflix. If we're fed just enough new car, just enough new goodie, want a trip once a year to Disneyland, just enough, we'll believe we're living the dream. And we are debt enslaved in this country. And we are continuing to be debt enslaved in this country because we are trained to be debt enslaved in this country. Be a good consumer, own your home. I mean, and I own my home. Okay. And I'm very happy. My wife and I worked our guts off forever to build this house. But boy, was it difficult. Okay. And we didn't even get this house built until I was in my 50s. I had a kid online and they identified themselves as a kid who was giving me a hard time and said, Gen X, you guys are fat and rich and just sitting up there. And I said, well, I am getting a little fluffier in my mid 50s. I'll give you that. I definitely am. However, the rich part, none of this was rich. We had family help us. We
Yeah.
we built this house out of logs. Well, we didn't build it, but we had a builder build it who got the logs about 30 miles away. It was the
Wow.
cheapest option, for us to even own a home. And so I'm talking about all these big issues because when I talk about our culture deliberately dummying us down as global citizens, as
Yeah.
well as what we should be doing for one another, the greatest generation, my grandparents, My
Yeah.
God, they knew all their neighbors. My grandpa taught me how to build a shed. My uncle, who is also a woodworker, taught me all the different tools. If my neighbor didn't have it, we'd build it for them and give it to them. And that was seen as being a good American back then. So
Yeah.
we've had a
Yeah.
dramatic culture change because the more dependent we are, not on socialism, not on capitalism, not on Marxism, not on communism, but on capitalism, the more dependent we are, guys, on, I mean, not to be graphic here, but sucking the teat of debt, which everybody is in the United States almost now because of what's happened since we've had some very corrupt people in office and blatantly corrupt, don't even care that their corruption shows. And that these off-worlders and these angels tell me we are in an exercise right now to decide if we accept it or not. And most people don't accept it, but we're still passing AI online. We're not making the connection that we have the power here. And I
Yeah.
I can keep saying this till I'm blue in the face. I can say, look at our ally France, you guys, that gave us the Statue of Liberty that we turned our back on in some really awful times and we shouldn't have. And other times we stepped in and helped. Why are we not getting the message? And the reason is we have generations of disempowerment in this country baked into emotional and fiscal, and I'm going to call it laziness because we've been in a Goldilocks zone over here for a while. And now we need to step it up. And, I have people who get real mad at me, especially some of my conservative friends who were like, don't you call me lazy? I work 19 hours a day.
Yeah.
I'm like, but think about what are you willing to give up? That's what I'm talking
And
about.
why are
What
they
it
working 19 hours a day?
because
Because
of our
they
debt
have to.
enslavement, man. I
That's
mean,
right.
right?
That's right. And
It's like,
they're working
wow.
so much, they're too tired to sort it out and
There you go.
think about why am I having to do this?
Yep.
I mean, it's really painful to think about the young people today who would like to buy a house and all that sort of thing. You know, you can't even afford to rent your own apartment anymore alone. You
I
have to have
know.
roommates. It's really, really crazy. And I can remember, buying a house when I was super young, and it was wonderful and exciting, but it was normal. It
Yeah.
was really
Yeah.
normal to be able to do that. And my kids and the other kids that I know, that's just so far away. Even
Yeah.
though they're really smart, they work really hard.
Yes.
Most of
Yes.
them working at least two jobs. It's
And
like,
and I'm just going to dive in real quick when you said
yeah,
working two jobs, because I really want to make sure when I say Americans are lazy, I'm not talking work ethic.
yeah,
I'm talking about emotionality and what we're willing to give away. And you are correct. 100%. We are all tired. We're
we're too
tapped
tired to
out. We're
think.
working. We're too tired to think. We're working three jobs. You're right. I owned a home in my 30s. And I paid $72,000 for this super cute little like 1920s cove ceiling thing in Billings, Montana. And
Yeah,
I gave that house to a partner that I had. Uh, Long story, but the bottom line was I thought I would just later go get another house. I know you guys are going to make a million psychic jokes right now, but I had no idea it was going to get this severe. And
yeah,
this beautiful home that I'm sitting in that I have such gratitude for, my God, this was like a 10-year project. That light fixture right there, we drug that around, me and my wife and other light fixtures in this house for 8 years. We looked like hoarders, building up the light fixtures, building up the sink fixtures until we
yeah,
could put them in the house. I mean, so it's not like I just waltzed in with all this money and built this house. It
yeah.
was like a Lego project. So you're right about the kids these days, and I do think that we have great capacity for change and evolution. And I think we just have to admit what our story is here in the United States, which is why I use some pretty hefty words,
Mm,
because there are many who've been trying for years who are less, uh, and I'm using the word emotionally lazy about things. Obviously, you guys, you know who you are, so don't get your panties in a knot here. Yet for the rest of we Joe Blows and Jane Blows out here, we could probably step it up just the tiniest bit. And I've been trying to in my own way, because if we're going to survive, according to these off-worlders, they've talked to me about some pretty dire ways our planet is in. They're noticing different issues with current flow of the ocean. And that
Mm,
affects their navigation equipment because it affects the electromagnetic pull of the earth. Okay. And
wow.
Renee, I don't go on and on about this because I don't want to sound like one of those doom scroll weirdos who's looking for likes and hits out of bad news. And there's a lot of them. But to not talk about it is to lie. And I can't go there. I just
Yeah.
can't go there in my work. So our off-worlders are literally saying, do you understand your currents are starting to slow in the ocean? Do you understand that's affecting these things? And I tell them some of us do and some of us don't. And now we're kind of down that road and we can make some corrections and other things are just going to play their course out at this point.
Yeah.
However, now the how do we live with one another? How do we stop doing this and saying socialist, Marxist, red, blue, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
How do we stop saying Biden's the problem, Trump's the problem, blah, when each one of us are the problem
Yeah.
in a country that affects the globe? I mean, come on, y'all. I mean, I literally am going hoarse in my life at 57 saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it any different.
I'm telling you, it's so true. It's so true. You know, maybe to lighten things up just a little bit before we get to the end of the hour, I'm keep going back in my mind to you talking about that mountain there that you can see and lots of activity. And I'm curious, is there's a craft that are seen flying around? Do they go in the mountain and come
Yes.
out of the mountain?
They do. So this mountain, Big Pryor Mountain, it's one of the Pryors are one of the oldest mountain ranges in the United States, and they're weird shaped. They're like instead of shaped like this, they're kind of like pushed up on one side. So they're slopey here and steep on one side here. And
Interesting.
and they're made of limestone. So there's big limestone caverns. There are ice caves in these mountains that have glacial ice from the last ice age that got pushed underground and is still coming up. The glaciers are still moving subterraneously. And so we have a serious AB craft that come and go. We have Uturan craft, which come and go. It's a big, heavy vortex point. You'll be looking up in the sky and all of a sudden something will just change direction like this. So it's not a SpaceX satellite. I mean, it's moving completely differently. And I know I'm sounding a little grim on the show, and I sure don't mean to, because our
No.
off-world are chronically telling me, guys, if you'll just that's why I said at the top of the hour, if we can make tiny changes, we'll make a massive difference.
Yeah.
And to kind of snap out of it and saying, well, I'm not responsible for this. Yes, we are. This mountain, this place, there are petroglyphs, and which are rock chips, into pictures chipped into the rocks.
Mhm.
And there's cave paintings that are of UFOs landing. And
Wow.
yeah, earlier, and my bestie sister, Melissa, Sienna, and I have done walks out there to show people these UFOs that are landing painted on the rock. And they call them Valley of the Shields, except for the fact that if you actually look at a craft landing, and I've been under a couple of times in my life, it looks like a round circle and it's got a kind of a
Hmm.
cross piece and these four lights. And that's exactly what these things look like is your
Yeah.
view if you're looking up and this thing's coming down. And it's got all these little light glows around it. And they're like, it's a shield. I'm like, okay, it's a shield. It's a
Wow.
shield. Okay. Yeah, it's an
Well,
amazing area where I live.
it reminds me very much of a mountain nearby here where I'm sitting. There's a pretty well-known mountain called Mount Bugarash, and people constantly say that they see UFOs flying in and out of Bugarash. And interestingly, Bugarash was the inspiration for Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth,
Oh, wow.
and the original inspiration for Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But they were
Wow.
going to film here, but it was too expensive. So they ended up in your neck of the woods up there.
Yeah,
that,
right down the street at Devil's
yeah,
Tower. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's also not Bugarash itself, but a nearby village is supposedly the inspiration for Through the Looking Glass or Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. And all these
Wow.
people have been here, and are inspired to these wonderful stories by this area. So that mountain, in the prior range that you're talking about,
Yeah.
reminds me very much of that same thing. So you're going to have to come and visit and check out this mountain. Plus the unusual shape that you were talking about. This mountain is very ruggedly shaped, and it's bottom side up.
Oh,
At one point,
weird.
there was a volcano and an eruption that flipped the mountain upside down. So it's just crazy. Now,
Whoa.
at the end of the Mayan calendar back in December of 2012, Mount Bugarash was supposed to have been the one place that was the refuge of the apocalypse that was going to occur in 2012. And I mean, they had the army here, the world press was here, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, everybody was
Wow.
here in this little
Wow.
tiny village at the foot of Mount Bugarash, waiting to see what, if anything, happened. People were trying to clamber up the mountains and be up there when something occurred. So it's interesting that you're looking at your mountain and I'm looking at mine out here,
Yep.
and there's a lot of similarities with the unusual geology of those places. But yeah, I would love to be able to communicate like you do with other entities from wherever, especially angels. That sounds particularly wonderful.
Hey, well,
And
it's nice just because they give you tips and tricks for how to live. It doesn't
yeah,
mean I always take them because I'm me, but
yeah, of
I
course.
try. I try. And if you're hearing a siren in the background, I still live in this beautiful town that blows off a 9 o'clock siren for curfew at night and a noon siren to let everybody know it's time for lunch. So if you're hearing that, there's not a tornado.
It's lunchtime. It's
I
lunchtime.
guess so.
Yeah, well, I am 9 hours ahead of you, so I'm much closer to dinner time
Yes,
uh,
ma'am.
than you are. But anyhow, oh my goodness, it's been so wonderful. So, what are you up to? How do people find you? And all that
You
good
guys,
stuff.
you can always go to my website, and it's just my name, Danielle Egnew, EGNEW-advisor.com. I got all my events up there. On July 11th, I'm actually going to be here in Bridger, Montana at Spirit Fair Bridger. I'm doing a gallery reading, you guys, and I love those. And that's where you bring a
Oh,
psychic question in.
wow.
I love them because people learn so much from other people's psychic questions, right? So
Yes.
people can come in, you can bring your psychic questions. I'll channel them live on the spot. Yes, everybody's going to hear your question. It's only $45. So come in and you get a chance to sit there for a couple of hours and learn and get your courage up and ask a question. That's July 11th. And you can get those admission tickets on my website, DanielleEgnew-advisor.com. And also hit me up, Danielle Egnew. I have a blue check mark on Facebook and on Instagram.
You're
Uh,
verified.
I'm verified. I'm verified. I'm Danielle Egnew on TikTok. I've been trying to get verified, and they just haven't verified me. But there's a lot of fake me's there. But it's just my name, just at Danielle Egnew. And you can also follow me on YouTube and all the other places. And I love to hear from you guys. I genuinely love to hear from you guys. So hit me up.
Oh, absolutely. And I really enjoy some of your music when you play your guitar and sing on your
Thank
videos.
you.
It's
Girl, and I know,
it's
and you guys,
such
to
a
be
kick.
fair, Renee was like, "Would you sing us a song?" And I've got this stinking horrible cold. I've got about like 3 notes right now, man. I would be Stevie Nixon it up.
Oh
But
man,
I'm next time I will. Next time I'm working
you
on a
got to come
musical.
back. You
I'll
got to
come
come
back.
back soon.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a wonderful time here with Danielle. And you do have to come back, and you do have to come for a visit as well. Now I'm going to have to come
100%.
and see you and your
Oh my God, girl.
strange
There's your room
mountain.
right there.
All
See? There's your
right.
guest room right there.
Sounds good. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Bye.